Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Ask Mr. Long Island. My name is Michael Watt, aka Mr. Long Island, and this week our guest is Bill Corbett of Corbett PR. Bill, thanks for being a guest today.
Pleasure to be here, Mike. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much. And we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about personal branding, which is a kind of a new concept, although a new expression for something that's been around forever.
Correct.
And then we're also going to talk about public speaking because that just frightens the dickens out of most people. So thank you for joining us, and let's talk about personal branding a little bit. You're a public relations expert. You've been doing it since forever. How does personal branding, well, what is personal branding? Walk us through that a little bit.
Well, personal branding is how people perceive you in your marketplace. Remember, there's a difference between branding and marketing. Marketing is pushing information out there to get some attention, but branding is pulling them in, and your brand and what you're about pulls people in to what you are and who you are.
I always use that as an example when you're talking about branding. My kids were little, and it was a rain, stormy night. We're on 95, and they're getting cranky. I was getting cranky, and we're up in Westchester, which I don't know at all. And I saw her up in the sky, like a star was the McDonald's logo. And I knew that I'd get a clean bathroom and a safe place to go, and we went to McDonald's. It was 11 o'clock at night. Was that an example of branding?
Well, the goal of a branding is to build familiarity, to build trust. And you know what the brand is about, like McDonald's. You know you're going to go in there. You know what you're going to get from that experience. And from an individual basis, you have to think about it that same way for yourself. You have to create a brand based on not just what you do, but who you are and why you do it. And you have to create those messages and actually create a plan for yourself. And that's something that a lot of people don't do. They don't think about their brand and how they project themselves versus just doing it willy-nilly and networking and doing all these things. They're successful, but they're lucky in a lot of cases, being successful by luck.
When you say plan, I mean, how would you build your personal brand? How would somebody go about building a personal brand?
You start by, like you would build any marketing plan, you start asking yourself some questions about what you stand for, what do you do, why do you do it, and how do you do it better? And you want to write all these things down. So when you are creating your LinkedIn profile, you're creating your bio on your website, you're doing a video for promotional purposes, those messages come through. Again, it's creating that message, that brand that attracts attention, but then when people get to know you, they trust you, and that brings them in to potentially do business with you or hire you or whatever your goal is.
Well, you touch on something I think is really important, the message. What is your mission? What is your purpose? What can someone expect from the Bill Corbett brand, for instance? Well,
my mission is to work with small business owners and individuals to increase their business and business development by 20 to 50%. A very concise message I put out there. You're Mr. Long Island. Your message is talking about Long Island, the benefits of being here, as well as bringing more business here. It's been a mission of yours for a long time. And so you're projecting that constantly, and people know you for that. Once they know you for that, you've crossed over that hurdle where then you now can build a tighter relationship with them.
But that's where you talk about building. I mean, that's where it all comes from. You have to have a message. And I would imagine most of the people you work with, maybe they don't realize that.
They don't realize it, but they also don't think about this. There's your business brand and there's your personal brand as well. They're interconnected. So you always have to be passionate and real, about what you're doing every day. People see through the fluff, and they see through people who are trying to fake it. But when you're honest, sincere, and you have a real brand and a real message that includes your passion about why you do what you do, then you're really going on the right trajectory. Well,
you mentioned the passion, but there has to be a consistency as well.
Yeah, consistency is super important. So whether how often you post online, how often you write blogs, how often you appear on television, you need to do that on a regular basis, and that message needs to be consistent throughout. And there's a saying in marketing, frequency equals trust.
And the frequency, so you just don't blog about things willy-nilly. You kind of have to have a plan.
Yeah, it has to be consistent with your plan. You're talking about Long Island and marketing and business on Long Island. That's your brand. You're not going to talk about New York City or plumbing.
Oh, you're not going to post pictures of your lunch or just whatever comes to mind.
Not unless you're a chef or a restaurant critic.
Terrific. Bill, where can someone, if wants to learn more about personal branding, where would they go? How could they find you and learn more about what you're doing?
I have a couple websites. My Twitter account is LIPR Guy. CorbettPublicRelations.com is my website. And I also have a website called LinkedInWinner.com where I have personal branding and LinkedIn marketing programs and services.
Terrific. My guest today has been Bill Corbett. We're talking about personal branding. This has been an episode of Ask Mr. Long Island. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk about public speaking. Thank you, Bill.
Hi, I'm Tim Stead. I'm from Star Communications. We're a marketing support company. And if you need help with your next marketing project, please call 273-1900 or you can go to our website, starcommunications.us.
Good afternoon. We're back to Ask Mr. Long Island. My name is Michael Watt, a.k.a. Mr. Long Island. Our guest today is Bill Corbett. Bill, we already discussed personal branding, and a part of personal branding is public speaking. You look for opportunities to get out in front of people and share with them just how brilliant you are. Yet, so many people are frightened of public speaking. Talk to us a little bit about the value and how do you get over that fright.
And when you poll people, it's like the #1 thing that they're afraid of doing. They don't want to speak in public. And the reason why you need to do it is it's the ability to project your brand and your message to a small group of people, or if you have the opportunity to videotape it, you can repurpose it later. But it's really an opportunity for people to build trust, build relationships, and people will learn what you're about, you know, when you're speaking to them directly in a room, whether it's 5 people or 500.
What's harder, talking in a room of 5 people or talking in a room of 500?
I think it's the person's personality. They may be fearful or challenged to speak in front of a group of 5 because they know that those people are going to interrupt them or interact with them. And the group of 500 may be more timid just because of the size. People don't want to get up themselves and ask a question. They're afraid to do that. But so I think that they both have their different dynamic.
What are some of the do's and don'ts? And let me preface it by saying, you know, the fear of public speaking really stems from the stress of getting up and saying something. So if you have in your mind some things you're supposed to do and some things you're not supposed to do, that might alleviate some of that stress.
Right. Well, I think the first thing is talk about something that you know something about. You know, don't say, oh, I can speak on a topic, and then all of a sudden 2 days before you have to create a PowerPoint or create a program that you don't know something about. Speak within your brand, speak within your area of expertise. Another don't is don't rely on technology. I just had a situation about a week or about a month ago where I had a PowerPoint going, I had a nice projector going, it was awesome, and all of a sudden, boom, it literally blew up. The flame, no flames, but smoke, it came out of it. So I was without my PowerPoint. I knew the thing down cold, so practicing is essential. Don't rely on technology and engage your audience. Ask them questions and see if you can get them interactive in some way. Even if you can get them to shake hands with each other, raise their hands, ask them questions. When the physical activity is super important, and body language. Body language, how you present, walking back and forth, and looking at people in the eye, and demonstrating yourself, the way you use your hands, are all critical.
And it helps because the audience wants to be engaged. I have to throw out a pet peeve when people do PowerPoint and they read the PowerPoint to the audience. You're like, I can read it. Show me what you know. So that's a personal pet peeve of mine.
I agree. And if you can, put the laptop or the iPad or whatever you have in front of you so you can read it almost like a teleprompter.
Well, and you use the bullet items as prompts for things that you should know about, correct?
Or pictures, too. I love to use pictures. It helps you tell stories, and that's a critical, important thing, too, is tell stories. Just like I told the story about the thing blowing up at the presentation.
Right.
Tell a little story. People will remember that because you want to be both informative, but you also want to be memorable.
And it kind of breaks the ice a little bit. And you threw something out there I found fascinating. Engage the audience, ask them questions. How do you go about doing that? What's a good way to do that?
I've gotten 2 people to come up and introduce themselves, shake hands, and then critique each other's elevator speech. I've had people come up and take a selfie with me. You know, whatever we can do to make it a little bit fun, a little bit interesting. One thing you should never do is try to be funny if you're not.
I was just going to ask you. Talk about the sense of, well, you threw an important part of it, if you're not.
If you're not. So, look, I've taken improv classes, I've talked to comedians, you know, to talk about my presentation, not to be funny, but to learn how to deliver, and because they're experts at it. Talk about fear. Doing stand-up comedy is probably the most fearful thing that anybody could ever do.
Right.
So if you can learn some of those techniques and learn from them, and watching TED Talks or watching comedians, you can learn quite a bit. So don't try to be funny, and if you think you're funny, try it out on other people first before you're going to speak in front of 500 people.
And don't tell jokes. You know, there's having a sense of humor. If you think about it, you know, our most popular presidents in the last 50 years, Kennedy and Reagan, had a great sense of humor. Some of the other ones not so much.
If you can't tell a joke, don't tell a joke. But that doesn't mean you can't tell a funny story or a funny situation that happened to you. Being self-deprecating is a great way to break the ice. Right,
and get engaged with the audience. What are some of the other do's and don'ts? What else should they avoid in public speaking?
I think that certainly practicing, like I said, if you don't practice, you're going to be in trouble. Practice on videotape, practice in front of the mirror, practice in front of people you know. I think that's the most critical thing. You can't just say, okay, I'm going to do this presentation on whatever, show up there and never have like thought about it or practiced it.
And even if you know your topic down cold, you should still have bullet points where you can see you're not reading from it, but you can just have that thing to refer back to.
Absolutely. I'm doing a short interview with you today, but I looked at the bullet points I wanted to bring out today, and I hit on most of them.
Most of them, what do we leave out? Because we got to wrap up.
I like talking about being memorable and being remarkable. And I think remarkable people are memorable. So you have to create remarkable content when you speak or when you write. So think about being interesting, provide good tips, tell stories, and that makes you remarkable.
And somehow make some kind of reference to the people in the audience, like somehow whatever you're talking about.
You got to know your audience. If you're talking to a group of CPAs, business people, doctors, lawyers, whatever it is, you need to know who they are and really what they're interested in before you go in there, or you can crash and burn. Right,
and it also gets them engaged. Like, oh, this guy knows I'm a CPA, or you know.
Use a couple of statistics that they're familiar with in their industry, or that would open their eyes. That goes a long way.
Or if you have a conversation, like you're talking to a trade association, you talk to the president, you ask that person, what are a couple of issues that you're dealing with?
Do the pre-interview, ask the president, ask some people, do some research before you get there. A couple of quick bullets goes a long way.
So a really key to public speaking is being prepared. And if someone wants to learn a little bit more about how to give a speech, where would they go?
I like Toastmasters, and even reading Dale Carnegie books, looking at the TED Talks on TV, TEDx, awesome. You can learn so much from them. And you know what, a tip I gave for Fast Company recently, I was in an article, was all about if you're a leader of a group, say you become the leader of a chamber of commerce and work your way up, just being forced to be in front of people helps you become very comfortable.
And it's also something a real good PR guy like yourself could help with.
That's right. We can give you some training and work with video and really train people to do it the right way and be prepared.
Is there a website people can go if they want some more information?
They can go to my website, which is CorbettPR.com, and I also have a website for personal branding related to services called LinkedInWinner.com, and I'm LIPR Guy on Twitter.
That's great. Our guest today has been Bill Corbett of Corbett PR. My name is Michael Watt, a.k.a. Mr. Long Island, and this has been yet another episode of Ask Mr. Long Island. Thanks for joining us.